So, we're only just under 2 weeks into into 2026. Excuse me. I've been drinking some delicious, I think this is rum, Glava, Glayva. This is incredible. Anyways, I just wanted to give my perspective. I wanted to opine as to what's happening in the world and, what's happening. That's what I wanted to talk about. And also, what we can do. What's happening? Well, with Venezuela, the takeover of Venezuela, it was so fast and so efficient. I think it has completely solidified and give us an indication as to how Trump wants to operate, which there in turn it tells us what's happening with America and there in turn how we can learn how to profit from this. With the efficient removal of Maduro, I mean, think about it. Like they got him in a single day. I mean, just hours after having, like, Maduro literally has photos on, I think, I don't know if it's the government Twitter or whatever, but literally hours beforehand, this guy was meeting diplomats from China and Russia, of whom were humiliated, by the way. Actually, everyone has been humiliated. Every nation has been humiliated with this very quick and very efficient removal of Maduro. But I mean, this has spelled out to me that America now has entered the age of the new republic. And I think that's the only way to really call it. Because, politically speaking, internally, I don't really have much to say about that. It's totally different now. I think the Democrats are done for, right? And, that's that. But more importantly, what Trump is doing is effectively setting up the future of America for at least the next 100 to 200 years. That's my expectation. The next 100 to 200 years is going to be really good. Because, especially in the Americas. Because effectively he said, all right, we're not doing this Kissinger thing anymore. We're not going to do any prolonged wars for the military-industrial complex. No, we're going to fix everything. And in conjunction with the fact that geopolitically, he is establishing as many nearby, or he's trying to take over as much as possible that is nearby, right? He's localizing the new republic. He's localizing as much power, he's centralizing all the power as much as possible from nearby countries. Because of that, and not only that, with other countries wanting to play ball, and potentially even Iran turning into a democratic country, potentially a constitutional monarchy. If they are friendly to the United States, man, this changes everything about the Middle East, which means we may see a sort of peace that can be worked with. And this actually takes a lot. I mean, if Iran becomes friendly to the United States, man, that changes a lot in terms of the political nature of what's happening. Because China and Russia, they need access through the Middle East, and I think Iran was one of the few ways that they could do that. But I just want to mention again, I'm not the most erudite when it comes to history. I'm not the most erudite when it comes to politics. These are just my opinions. I briefly skim information, and then I just come to my own conclusions, which means I'm probably the worst person to listen to when it comes to this sort of stuff. But yeah, I mean, like, think about it. If America is making a lot of client states and a lot of friends in places they never and most people would have never expected to make, Man, uh, I mean, that just sets up everything for the next, century or two. And I think what matters for me actually is that, okay, so I see the writing on the wall, right? He's going to get Greenland, Canada's going to play ball, and so the entirety of Central and South America are going to start playing ball with Trump and America in general. All right. So what can I do, right? It's not just good enough to see that, okay, things might be better, right? I think the question is, well, what can we learn from this, and how can what can we do in order to get ourselves to a higher position? Well, really, the most immediate thing, and if you know me, I've been talking about this a lot. The only thing that makes sense is acquiring as much hard assets as possible, and in particular, for most people, I think it's going to be precious metals. Now, I could sit here all day and talk about how precious metals are God's money, right? I mean, we have ways of defining what makes for God's money from a very logical point of view without even needing the religious, perspective on this. But I think that's the most important thing that we can do is acquire these hard assets in order to protect ourselves, because what we're seeing is the degradation of the fiat currency. In other words, inflationary currency. The fact that you see inflation every day and that it's insufferable and quite literally enslaving, I think we are on our way to seeing that old system go away. And the only way to survive that is to actually acquire as much precious metals as possible, and or live in a way which is very frugal and actually allows you to live a healthy lifestyle, not just in terms of your dietary health, but also your emotional and your logical mind, and more importantly, your community. I think what the last decade has shown us is that man, everything's fucked. Whether it's our education system, whether it's our political system, whether it's even our health, our literally the healthcare system, even if it's in Canada or the United States, is totally messed up. It's neither, if it's free, it's garbage. If you have to pay for it, maybe it's okay, but man, it costs quite literally an arm and a leg. And so, right, our communities are messed up. Our religious leaders, our religious systems are totally messed up. And so now I think what's happening is that we have to enter the Great Awakening phase, which means, one, we have to exit this system of enslavement. And one of the ways that you do that, and the most easiest ways to acquire precious metals or any other hard assets, the other things that we should do is start to, find friends and family of whom are of sane mind and are of similar values, living in places that are not metropolitan, mentally ill concrete asylums. Yeah, I hope you understand where I'm going with this, right? I mean, it's totally okay to be living on a farm, raising your own cattle and making your own whatever, your own food and whatever acreage or what have you. Living amongst neighbors of whom are doing the same thing and sharing their own produce, and you're all bartering, trading, or just gifting each other, whatever, right? You all go to the same religious institutions and you're all happy, right? I mean, like, that is, I think for a lot of people that's going to be a fairy tale, right? But for those select few who can do that, I think that's going to be probably one of the best choices you'll ever make. And it's funny because for me personally, as someone who's transitioning to Southeast Asia, I think that's the direction that I think regardless of whatever physical place that I'll be, my heart and my lifestyle is still going to be geared towards living dharmically, living in mundane terms, okay, in a healthy, well-adjusted way. I'll be raising whatever children or friends and family, whatever, right? Like, I'll be living in a world that is not degenerate. I will not be involving myself with garbage people. And so this is all to say that the world we're transitioning into is not, it's coming very fast. And you should prepare yourself. I've been telling people, man, I got really pissed at one of my friends. He told me he bought silver ETFs. And I just said to him, I didn't even bother telling him he's stupid. I just said, you're the worst for timing. Because I told a lot of people to get physical coins, just silver, not even gold, right? If you can afford gold, that's cool. But, like my plan, which I've been sharing with a lot of people, is just to acquire as much silver as I could. And, holding on to that until when I need to trade that away in order to survive or whatever, right? But now actually that plan has changed as well. Like I'll be trading when the gold silver ratio is very in favor of, acquiring more gold. But that's a point aside. Yeah, I mean, like, I just think that a lot of people have lost the plot. I know I'm kind of meandering a bit, right? But I have a greater point that I'm trying to make here. I think people are so myopic with the suffering that we're all going through that they've forgotten that this is a birthing process that we're entering. We are entering into a new world, and giving birth to a new world is not easy. There's a reason why babies cry after they get born, right? And so, in terms of I guess, evolutionary psychology point of view, this is where we're going, right? We're birthing into a new world. And I see the whole action of the United States and the whole geopolitical situation, and the fact that BRICS is now, using something called the unit, which includes many assets, but largely, I guess, their own fiat currencies, but also precious metals. The fact that people are now yearning for meaning and God, right? Let's just say. I think people are just so myopic that they've forgotten the bigger plot and still live a healthier, well-adjusted life. And so I guess what I'm trying to say here is buy precious metals.